Okay. So we in the building. We in the building. As you know, I'm Juice Winner. This is Old York Gritty. All right. I gritty New York. Hold on a minute. All right. I gritty New York. Nobody gritty New York better than me. I gritty New York. You know what I'm saying? You see that right there. All right. So, um, by the way, before we get started, don't forget to like, the subscribe, and the notification bell so you can be notified whenever new content is being uploaded. Just like, don't forget to support me if you want to support me because I'm not monetized here, right? So my monetizing comes through, my merch, right? In my book, right? Street Skells Knock 'em Out the Box, which is about two brothers on opposite sides of the law who must team up in order to find their father's killers or killers. Pernell Purple was a prominent businessman in the streets of Harlem, you know, and so when he got killed one night on the side of a road in Queens, it was a hard blow for his family because no one could figure out why would he be wanted dead. Along the way, right, the brothers are at odds. One is a New York City cop, so him and his detective brother must team up in order to keep his younger brother out of the state pen, because if he gets his hands on him first, it's going to turn the streets into the OK Corral. Peace. Thank you for that. So now let's get into this chapter 9. Testimony of David Bernard before the Syracuse Anti-Masonic Convention regarding the Masonic degree, both high and low. Testimony of the Royal Archmason, point, questions, and remarks. We will now offer a document that is equal to anything yet given. Indeed, in some respects, it has no equal. It was our good fortune to be present when it was ready by its author, Elder David Bernard, before the New York Anti-Masonic Convention assembled in Shakespeare Hall, Syracuse on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of November, 1870. We quote from the American Wesleyan, whose editor, Reverend Adam Cook, presided over the occasion, heard the document read, and afterward received it from the hand of its author, who verbal appearance commanded respect and admiration. Laden was many years. Mr. Burden supposed he would not be able to attend the meeting and intended to send the paper, but God enabled him to appear before the meeting and read the following document, which we here give verbent less the introduction. It may not be uninteresting to the friends of truth and liberty to hear from the lips of who has been for more than 40 years under the ban of Freemasonry and smiles of good, although and this from speaking the truth in love. And this is dissolving the bands that bound him to a statistical oath bound and bloodstained order. And this for revealing and publishing to the world the secret, the oath, the death penalties, the desticle and the anti-Christian, the profane and the murderous doctrines of this mystery of inequity, which comes to us under the name and from the speculative Freemasonry. To hear from his lips, I say, a reaffirmation of all he has said in light of Masonry. It may not be interesting to know that the degree of Freemasonry, as continued in the book, or as they were received by me, i.e., the first 3 degrees in 1822 at Utica, New York, and received by me, i.e., the 4 degrees, my fault, at Union Village, Washington County, New York, as received by me, the 11 infallible degrees in seconding, I don't know where that's at, New York, as received by me through the orders of the Lodge of Perfection, aided by the Deputy Sovereign of Sovereigns of Sublime Prince, and the higher degree as written out in full by the Reverend Dr. Frederick Docho of South Carolina, the Sovereign Inspector General of Freemasonry of the 33rd degree. And I gave them opium and lithium as the training, my fault, as thus given to me by the highest Masonic authority in the world. And what makes the subject particularly interesting to me is the fact that these degrees were not written out for me, but written out by Dr. Doshi for the Lodge of Perfection, and observe, given me knowing that I would publish them all to the world. And I copied these documents written by Reverend Dr. Dochi as carefully as I would have copied God's pure word, which I regard more than all the world besides. And if this is not all true and authentic, I do not know what authenticity means. And if you don't find Freemasonry truly and correctly given in my book called Light of Masonry, you cannot find it anywhere. All right. I published the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry and received by me, the Master Masons Lodge of Utica, New York, the Honorable Ezra S. Koziri, being then worshipful master of that lodge. And as written out and published by William Morgan. And William Morgan, you know, sealed the testimony which he gave with his own blood. If anyone is skeptical of his death by Masonry for writing this book of the 3 first degrees, let him read Colonel Stone's defense of Masonry. And that defense, he will find Colonel Stone confessing that one of the murderers of William Morgan came to New York City and in open lodge confessed that he was one of the murderers of Captain Morgan and asked aid to escape, and that the Mason helped him with money and took him out in a boat, put him aboard a vessel, and sent him to England. Right? And if you want another witness, read the inaugural address of Edward Livingston, Secretary of State of the United States. In his inaugural address at his institutional at the High Priest of the Grand Lodge of the United States, he says that the Brotherhood should remember what cause had been given by the Freemason to, pardon me, let me just smoke. All right. This is that sour stomper infused with double grape. So, this is by Mephisto Seeds. I don't get nothing for them. I'm just smoking, telling you what it is. Okay. Had been given by Masonry to produce the minds of the public against the order, the death of a fellow citizen by Freemasons, and this is sustained by the death penalty of the order and by the oath in the higher degrees, which obligate to execute the penalties of death upon the traitor of Freemasonry. The language of Freemasonry is, I swear to take vengeance on the traitors of Freemasonry. We are bound to cause their death. It may be well to observe here that the most plausible agreement against the truth of these death penalties is found in the fact that John G. Stern, Charles G. Finley, and David Bernard, with many others, succeeding Masons, still live. It is asked with impudent infantry and sometimes with all sincerity, if these death penalties are Masonic, why not Freemasons kill these men? The fact that they live dispose with their changes against Freemasonry and wipe out the slander. So they say. They reply to all this is very easy to explain. Many Masons, most of them indeed, are better than the institutions of Freemasonry itself. Although Freemasonry justifies, requires indeed these death penalties to be executed, the conscious, the conscience of good men would withhold them, and the fear of human laws deters most of, not all, bad men. But I hope that those who are not deaf will hear the deaf cries of William Morgan, of Batovia, of Murdoch, of Renzenville, right, and Mr. Miller of Ireland, and of others who have been murdered by the order for revealing Masonic secrets, and that they will see the blood of these victims on the regular of the order, on the doors of the Masonic halls and temples. And while they take warning, with will unite with the friends of truth and liberty, and peaceful and firmly and persistently opposed by all lawful means this great hydra of iniquity, and never give up the battle until the cry shall go up all over the land of the world. The lie is dead and damned, and truth stands up instead. I wish to say in closing this letter that I have no feelings of hostility, no war to wage against the order or brotherhood of Freemasonry as men. As part of the common brotherhood of mankind, I regard them with interest, deep, profound, unchanging, and everlasting. For their eternal welfare, I would live and labor, suffer and die, if need be, that they might be enlightened, redeemed, and saved from all refuge of lies, all sandy foundations, and build on the one and only foundation which God has laid for all men, without distinction of age, race, condition, or color. Many of the Masonic brotherhoods are among the warmest friends, and knowing each other's relations and positions. We love each other with a pure heart, fervorously. I hope they will see through the custom of Our Lady arrayed in white linen, silk laced in pearls, and see the accused harlot within, full of moral corruption and death. Let them go not near her dwelling. Let them ever pass by her door. Let them not listen to her voice, charming never so wisely. Stolen waters are sweet, she says, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But let them remember that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell. With great respect, I subscribe myself the friend and brother of all men, and yours, the labor sufferer, and die for labor and liberty and truth. David Bernard. The men of the apron may, and they will, still cry out lies, lies. They may and will cry out, you interferes with that which you may no business. You talk about what you do not understand. They may and will not cry. He is insane. But in doing so, they will only prove what we have so often said, namely that their system is very corrupting as well as very corrupt. Many of the men who thus speak could not, therefore, before they joined the Masons, either slander their fellow or tell a deliberate falsehood, but they can now do so without feeling shame or fear. Yea, and profess to be very religious too. But all the Masonic methods will fail to hide or shield their bad system. For the fact and evidence which we here give and have formally given defined resistance and methods upon which they now rely principally is to keep their dupes from reading what is published. And this they do by working on their fears of the dupes of Masonic sovereign Grand Master or the various slaves. The multitudes who are not in the lodge are in similar bondage. They are afraid they cannot live if the Masons say die. Hence, they dread to have it known that they buy or read anti-Masonic literature. The result is they soon find it necessary to attempt to justify their cause. And to this end, they plead that they are ignorant to the system and would have you believe that all others are equally ignorant and should say nothing about it. This cause this cause being pursued for a time. They finally become the apologists and even the admirers of masonry and kindred societies. At last, the various tools of the secret fraternities are wonderfully flattened by them and receive little reward for the efficient services which they render. Now they are jacks, known and read of all men. But a day of reckoning is coming, and God will render to every man according to his work. That awful day will surely come. The appointed hour make haste, when most stand before the judge and pass the solemn test. Then, if not before the rejectors of Christ, all their apologies and all their works of iniquity of every class will find that honestly is the best policy, and they will feel the force of those burning words. What a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul. God grant that they may learn and feel before it is too late. The following Masonic testimony, which I clipped from the series Cynosure of December 27th, 1870, may tend to open some eyes. Dear sir, I was once a Royal Archmason myself, and one of the brightest Masons in this country. I have done much for Masonry, but about 3 years ago, while making a minister of RAM, and hearing him repeat that oath, it made such a impression on my mind that I resolved never to visit the chapter again and did not, as I was so well posted in the Blue Lodge. I went there a while, but God was pleased to let the light shine on my heart. And I began to pray, but my praying did me no good until I told the Lord I would leave the lodge forever and would serve him. Then Jesus spoke peace to my poor heart. I went to the lodge and told them I could meet with them, no more paid my dues, and asked for an honorable discharge from them, which they gave about 6 months afterwards. When I asked admissions to and was received as a member of the Free Methodist Church. I find Jesus a satisfying portion, and the company of his children my heart's find true joy. But I have found that the friendship Masonic of this world is intimate to God. I have been from home some 5 weeks this fall, And as I go from one place to another, I tell those I do business with that what masonry is. Every day, my convictions are strengthened that masonry is evil and only evil in its moral, social, religious, and political workings upon community, and as such, it shall have my opposition, mine too. Because as you see, it's telling you it attacks the morals, the social, your religious, and political workings within the communities. This is a psychological game. And those who are indoctrinated or already indoctrinated under a system of belief. There are very few, like myself, who, you know, um, started off, I guess, with the journey of, and never, and because I was questioning, I never got the answer. But until I got the answer, right? Meaning I never got the answer directly from the people, but observation of the people gave me my answer. Right, I learned it, and then ironically, I ran across people like this who I'm like, oh wait, so there's communities out there, even from the time that were putting you on the game. So my thing is, I put you on the game presently while showing you this system even from the past. So it doesn't matter what year you come in to understanding a system of good and evil, and understanding that they are really two birds of a system, of a governmental system, right? Because they're going to get paid either way. And that's how that works, right? So where we at here? Um, May the good Lord bless you and all those who are trying to expose this great evil in our midst. That was Edwin H. Hitchcock. Mark this single fact and the case of this Royal Arch Center, one of the brightest Masons in the country, while trying to minister to RAM. And hearing him repeat that oath, it made such an impression on my mind that I resolved never to visit the chapter again, and did not. But that which shocked this man, who had never made any profession of religion, does not appear to have shocked the minister. He took upon himself the honorable obligation of the Royal Arch degree, and like a consumist, consummate hypocrite, which he was retained his Christian profession, and that a minister of the gospel. Was he not past feelings? If not, would he not have felt as well as the sinner who witnessed the horrible deed? But he was remunerated by retaining or obtaining the pastorate of Rich Church, and is now doubt, doubtless showing his gratitude to Masonry by drawing the male members of his church into the lodge and the females into its side chambers. Very likely, everyone there was a time when this man was a Christian, but the six preceding degrees had not only provided him of the Christian life and power, but had scared his conscience as with the hot iron and dust prepared him for the still more diabolical degrees of the seventh. Thus, it is the Masonry controls the church of the present day. They do. Thus, it is that Masonry controls the church of the present day and kindly reserves the more desirable appointment of its oath bound subjects. Like Masonry is the middleman. You know what I'm saying? It's this system that plays on the good and bad to move society as a whole, right? So it goes, but they are guiltless who knows all this and yet submits to it. Yea, and render to those royal arch sinners that very pay to obtain which they become royal arch sinners. Are they guiltless? I trow not. And I would further ask, how long will it take us to cleanse the church by supporting the men who corrupt it? No, there is no now there is no possible way of evading these questions but by pretending that masonry is not a bad thing. For if it is a bad thing, we represent it to be. No man can pretend to believe that they are innocent who support it, much less can it be pretended that they are innocent who bind themselves by horrid oaths and death penalties to do so. And those who act this day pretend to believe that masonry is a good thing and that it is right for their ministers to become masons cannot reasonably find fault with us if we question their honesty. During the struggle that followed the murder of Morgan, honest men were much annoyed by many who, to obtain trifling favors from the Mason, took sides with them, or pretending to be neutral, always taking care to say, I am not a Mason. This gives rise to the idea of Jack Masons. The called forth such remark as the following, which I quote from the Anti Masonic Almanac. For wonderful things. An anti-Mason opposed to political anti-Masonry. A sober drunken, an honest thief, and a Republican Mason. Again, solve this question. Which is the most entitled to respect the Mason who supports Masonry on account of his oath, or the Jack who bears its burden voluntarily? At the present time, there are many such characters as those indicated in the above question quotations, and to them we refer to the last question for solution. Nor can it will be denied that the anti-Mason opposed to reformation is a thing little less wonderful than an honest thief. I say opposed to reformation, for this is what it amounts to. There are many now as then who profess to be anti-Masons, but they are not. Only do nothing to break the power of Freemasonry, either in church or state, but they object to the efforts of all who do so. If the Mason make a noise when you expose their system to their doings, they are certainly they certainly will, then those professed anti-masons will withdraw their support from you if they ever gave you any, and will even unite in the Masonic clamor against you. Such anti Masons may well be classed with honest thieves and sober drunkards. It is well thus be compared past the present time and learn from thence that there is nothing new under the sun. Certainly, there is nothing new in the existence of such character as those above described. And it is equally certain that he who do the work of the Lord must make up his mind and do it even though he should stand alone in all his days. So we understand this system of slander. We can see it in today's time, right? We can see this system of Freemasonry. Whenever you expose them, all of a sudden they're coming at you and attack the powers, well, pardon me here, right? The powers that be, right? As we say, right? So we understand this system. We understand this con, right? And so we should understand what and how to combat it, right? First, you should understand that it's a religion, right? That's justifying how it's moving because how the other religions are moving. Saying basically, if you don't approve of this lifestyle, I'm justified for doing what I'm doing because my system says that I can do that in order to combat you. You understand what I'm saying? Like it's fighting fire with fire. So I can go into your realm and prove that your God ain't real because of all the things I can do to you. And so once somebody gets away with certain things, right, they easily start praying to that God or that system because they profited from it. Right, you would pray to Jesus, you get a good job, you get this, that, and the third. So say now, you praying to Lucifer, you doing or the devil or whatever name, Satan or whatever name it goes by, right? And you praying to that, and you profiting, right? You would do the same thing. You would pay your tithes. You would 10% of you. It's all about the belief. That's what it's about. And in that belief, it's opening the door to a system that was, I guess they want to say, um, oppressed. The gay community, the women, overlooking the black, but those were their repressions. And so they got a scapegoat, because that's the key. That's what number one thing with this, right? Getting a scapegoat. So, like I said, I'm Juice Winner. This is Oh, Joe Gritty. All right, hold on a minute here. Oh, Joe, I Gritty New York. Right? Why? Because this is Old Joe Gritty. Yes, we in the building. Okay. All right, don't forget Street Scouts. Knock him out the box. right? Available on Amazon and many other platforms. Don't forget to hit the like, the subscribe, and the notification so you can be constantly updated whenever new content is being uploaded. Until next time, I think I'm gonna drop another one. It's still, still early. I read, so it's ain't nothing to me. Get it out the way.